number. Divorce becomes easier, hopefully less painful as of today. Tell me your story. Tell me if divorce for you actually improved your relationship, or even if you think it's possible to have what is sometimes described as a good divorce. I can't imagine it's ever a pleasant process. I don't think it's ever anything that someone's going to enjoy, even if you do sometimes hear of people having divorce parties. In the way that they would have wedding parties or celebrate their wedding, they celebrate the end of their marriage. I can't imagine it's ever a fun or a pleasant process. But tell me if, at the end of your marriage, your relationship was in any way better with your erstwhile partner or spouse than when you were married. 0345 6060 text 84850, tweet at LBC, email Darren at lbc.co.uk. Rita Gupta is Managing Director at Rita Gupta Family Lawyers. Rita, thank you very much for your time. This has been the long time coming. It's the biggest shake-up of divorce law in this country for about 5 decades. As of today, no-fault divorce law is here. Rita, what does that mean?
Well, in essence, what it means is that as of the 6th of April, you no longer have to allocate blame to another party or another person when you are issuing divorce proceedings. Now, previously, you would say that the marriage is irretrievably broke down, but you had to rely on a fact. So you'd have to allocate blame, such as adultery or unreasonable behaviour, or be separated for a period of time. What the new divorce laws actually make happen is that you can divorce on a statement of irretrievable breakdown, and that's it. You don't need to allocate blame. You don't need to make reference to conduct or fault. You don't need to give any reasons.
And the statement of an irretrievable breakdown, does that have to be made by both parties or one?
It can be made by one person, or it can be made jointly. I mean, sometimes for parties to issue this joint statement, it sort of takes away the imbalance of power when there was a petitioner and a respondent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought about that. Parties sometimes fall out of love. There are lots of people who are waiting for this change because, they don't want to allocate blame to the other party. They want to make sure that they separate in a respectful manner and have a relationship on the other end of it. I mean, if you think you've got children, you're going to be parents forever, aren't you? Whether you're husband or wife, you're always going to be parents, and it's important that parties are able to have a divorce process that is not full of acrimony. And what fault-based petitions did do, and this is how family lawyers view it, is just set the tone negatively from the outset.
All right, well, let's give a hypothetical example. Person A and person B, we shall say, or partner A and partner B, have been married for 5 years. Partner A wants out, partner B doesn't particularly. What happens in that scenario?
Well, in that scenario, the divorce application can go ahead. I mean, they have removed the ability to defend, or what's now actually known as disputing a petition. There's only really specific criteria, such as jurisdiction or validity of marriage. That's a bitter pill to swallow. I mean, I recently wrote an article for the Law Society about this, and whilst family lawyers are all, hailing this new law, we have to accept that human emotion and pain that is part of this process isn't going to be eliminated by new divorce laws. We do have to have empathy for that. That must be very difficult when someone's very in love with somebody and doesn't want the marriage to end.
It's not instant, though, because there is going to be a period of 20 weeks, a minimum period of 20 weeks for what's being described as meaningful reflection. So it's not the case that someone wakes up one day, decides they don't want to be in their marriage anymore and is divorced by the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And similarly, it's not going to be the case that, people marry, on a whim and then the next day they want to get divorced, or a few days later. It's not that. You still have to be married for 12 months before you can issue what is now known as a divorce application, because the terminology has changed. And you are correct. They have built in a minimum period of 26 weeks, and within that is 20-week reflection period, whereby if parties think, well, you know what, maybe that was hasty, maybe we can work on something, they can explore reconciliation, or they can use that time really to work through a financial settlement or arrangements for their children. So it's not a quickie online divorce.
In terms of the financial pressures on couples or parting couples when divorce is imminent, much of the argument is about money. So this might save, I guess, and you can take a view on this as a lawyer, this might save a bit on lawyers' fees in that it simplifies the process, but it doesn't make divorce any easier in lots of other ways, does it?
No, the way in which people reach a financial settlement hasn't changed, and being completely transparent, most of the acrimony is around money. So you are right in saying that isn't going to change, and neither is human emotion. People are still going to want to allocate blame. If you feel you are wronged, you are going to find this process equally as painful. But that's not really, you don't deal with that process through a divorce petition. No. Really, you should be exploring therapy and counselling and support in other ways to help you through that process.
Well, I want to talk in this hour about whether it's possible to have a good divorce. In other words, to arrive at the end of a marriage on reasonably good or even good terms with your erstwhile spouse. Do you think that this new simplified process, let's call it that, will this make it more likely that couples or former couples can essentially still remain friends?
We would hope so. I think family lawyers are overwhelmingly in support of this. I mean, if you look at the scenario of, say, parties have just drifted, they've fallen out of love. And, I would say in recent years, I, for example, have seen rise in what we call the silver separator, where, people have been married for a long time, the children have left home, and they've fallen out of love and they haven't grown together and they want different things. There's still often in such cases a huge amount of respect for the other party and affection. And in those cases, I think they can be a good divorce, and certainly the professionals involved should guide them towards that. For some people, this change will mean very little because, in essence, it's not going to change the way they feel. And it's not going to necessarily make them alter their behaviour, but at least what they can do, they can't do is use the divorce platform as a means to air all their grievances.
Yes, and that has to be an improvement. That has to be a healthy development.
We would never encourage a client to, use another platform such as social media, for example, to detail exactly why the marriage broke down. I think, particularly where there are children, this is a really positive thing.
And just on the pandemic, it seems from conversations we've had on LBC in all sorts of contexts during the last 2 and a bit years, that the pandemic and lockdown particularly will have reaffirmed some relationships, improved some relationships, but obviously placed other ones under intolerable pressure. Has there been a post-pandemic rise in the number of divorces? Is that a phenomenon that you're seeing?
I have to say we've been very busy through the period and thereafter. I mean, I think, if you've got the scenarios such as abuse scenarios whereby when you're with somebody 24/7, they've been incredibly difficult cases to deal with. People have, experienced horrific circumstances. But you've also got the whole scenario of familiarity breeds contempt. It's very different seeing someone for a couple of hours in the evening and reflecting on their day to having them there 24/7. And I think people have looked at their lives and thought about what they want moving forward. And if they have fallen out of love or they've got a marriage that's just drifted over the years, they have thought after the pandemic that they want to make a change. So I have to say from LGFL's perspective, we have seen an increase.
And these changes that we've been describing, they come into force today?
They do. I don't think that they are going to lead to this huge surge of people saying they want to get divorced. There'll be an initial spike because obviously there have been people waiting for these changes. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to make people flippant about exiting a marriage. That's something that I've heard in the media quite a lot today. Yeah. And in the last few days, I don't think that is going to be the case. I mean, people still marry for love. It's an institution that's been around for a very long time.
Yes, I mean, making divorce less painful is not necessarily the same as making it more attractive, is it?
No, absolutely. And I think great care has been, there's been great care in trying to ensure that we're not seeking to undermine the sanctity of marriage. And I would encourage everybody who's thinking about this to, take time, not to rush into anything. I mean, even before the new divorce laws, we closed over the Christmas period and I had a website inquiry at 2:00 on Christmas Day. That was before the new system. There are people who sometimes are very hasty in their decisions. I don't think this new process will do that. And particularly, I think any decent family lawyer will ensure that a party is sure about the process that they're embarking upon They'll explore whether they want to try Relate or any other form of marriage counselling. So I don't think it is going to encourage people to run out and get a divorce, no.
OK, Rita, thanks very much. Rita Gupta, Managing Director at Lipa Gupta Family Lawyers. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. So today, married couples in England and Wales will be able to start divorce proceedings without apportioning blame. No force divorce laws come into force. And as you've heard there, the hope is that couples will be able to move forward without having to prove all of the bad things. They can just quietly agree that they want a marriage to end, or even one partner can agree that he or she wants a marriage to end without proving that the other partner has behaved in a particular way, because the necessary proof of that in the past has been very damaging to families. 0345 6060 973 is the number. Tell me if it's possible, do you think, to have a good divorce? Is there such a thing as a good divorce? Did you end up on friendly, maybe even friendlier terms with your erstwhile partner, having been through that process? LBC 319.